Hello again everyone, Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment I'm going to deviate from my usual Taurus rising routine with the house rulers, and I'm going to be dissertating and talking about something called a solar return chart. Now some of you may know what this is, some of you may not. Firstly, I don't want you to get it confused with the solar chart. A solar chart itself, as most of you know, is a chart that people, natal chart that people will construct when they don't have their time of birth, and what they'll do is they'll put the position of their sun sign on the cusp of the first house, and the chart is basically revolving around that, and the sun sign position in degree would be the person's rising sign. So anyway, as far as a solar return chart is a chart that someone will do when they will calculate a chart for a coming year, and what they do is they'll take the degree that you were born in, your exact degree for your sun sign, and the chart will be calculated for that year with that same on that. Usually it's probably going to be right on or about that same day. So I'm at 9 degrees Cancer, so the chart that I would do would be it would either be July 1st, 2nd, or June 30th. And what happens is when you calculate that chart, you have to calculate it where the sun will be in that same exact degree that it was in seconds of arc, and where it was when you were born as far as your natal chart goes. So obviously there's probably going to be different house positions that are and obviously there's going to be different planetary positions. So house placements, aspects, etc. Now, like in let's say if you take as far as mine, this year, what will happen is when I do my solar return chart, it's going to have like I stated before, it's going to have my exact degree for my sun sign, but there's going to be everything else will undoubtedly be different. You might have a few similar placements coincidentally. Mercury might be in Cancer in this one, like it was in the chart that I had, as far as my natal chart goes. And what the solar return chart is, it basically gives you a blueprint for that coming year. So let's say if I was to do my solar return chart, and let's say it fell on the same day, it fell on July 1st for this year 2014. That would cover the period from that point to June 30th of 2015. And what it is those planets and house house cusp and planetary placements, planets and signs and houses and aspects that they make to them, chart house rulers and everything. That's going to be basically indicative of what that of energy for that coming year. So in other words, let's say that when you do your solar return chart, and let's say on the solar return chart you had Gemini on the first house cusp, what that could mean is it might not, it's not, I wouldn't say that it would mean you're going to have Gemini traits for that year. You're going to be very mercurial and changeable and go from one thing to another, but it could indicate that there might be more of a pronounced interest in writing, reading, assimilating knowledge, gathering information, taking short journeys, things that would be associated with the sign of Gemini. Now, let's say somebody had when they did their solar return chart, that that Scorpio fell on the first house cusp. That could indicate something where the person might show a little more interest in occult, astrological studies, possibly metaphysical work, mysteries into the unknown, things more of a dark nature. Maybe the person might become interested and might be interested in some kind of reincarnation theories, life after death, because Scorpio is connected with things with death and things that can be morose or morbid. So and if you look at the chart, obviously you're going to have aspects in it. You might have you're going to have the sun in a certain house. If you're in your solar return chart, if your sun is placed say in the 10th house, the 10th house governs career matters, there might be more of a pronounced interest in terms of career, livelihood. There might be some notoriety connected for that coming year. Might be something with the father might figure prominently, status and recognition. So, you're going to look at house placements, aspects. Somebody that had written me said they were going to have Mars square Pluto in their solar return chart for this year. So, in the solar, if you have, like, say, if you have, in that example, Mars square Pluto, obviously that's adversarial. It could indicate contentious, relationships. And this particular example, not just this example, but many, whichever one, your aspects in your solar return chart, factor in the house placements as well with these planets. In this example, I believe the person told me that Mars was going to be in her 4th house and Pluto was going to be right on, the 7th house cusp. So obviously it's going to be, matters connected with home and family life and in relationships, and it's going to be something that could be maybe somewhat acrimonious and adversarial for things connected with these matters for the coming year. Now, I saw on some site one time that it stated that, basically, you could do your solar return chart, and it could be matters pertaining to even a few months prior, a few months after. I would just concentrate on that 12-month period. So in my case, my solar return chart is July 1st of, it'll be, probably, most likely it will fall on July 1st of 2014, and it would cover the period up until June 30th, 2015. Some people might think that I could look at, maybe, from April 1st prior to that has some, there might be some significance connected with the solar return chart. That could maybe be, there might have been things that were associated with planning certain things that were, prior to that solar return chart. For example, if you had, some, sun or not, some other planet, maybe, even Pluto was in the 9th house in your solar return chart, that governs, traveling, long journeys, philosophical or higher education. You might look at that where there might have been a planning stage, from that April, for my case, say April 1st to, July, July 1st. That, maybe there was some planning that went into that, the thing that was connected with the solar return chart. But I believe that, if its solar return chart is for 1 year, it covers that 1 year period, and I believe that really is it. And another thing too, you could look at house rulers just like you would in any, in your regular chart. And the house ruler, if you had the ruler of the 1st, in the 2nd, as far as that solar return chart goes, there might be, income generated might figure prominently, values, possessions could figure strongly for that person in that period. And keep in mind, this just covers, that 1 year, and when you do the solar return chart for the following year, there's obviously going to be a plethora of differences in terms of aspects, planetary placements, positions, because the sun is not going to fall in the exact same degree with the seconds of arc in that, at the same exact time every year. In my example, mine at 9 degrees Cancer, that could fall like at that could fall at 7:18 a.m. July 1st 1 year, and then the next year it might fall, June 30th at 10:42 p.m. So obviously you're going to have different house placements for each year that you do your solar return chart for. So I just want to get with people on that. And also there is a website that you can calculate your solar return chart. Believe it's for the the Western astrology. I'm not 100% on that. I'm not sure what house system it uses, but it's astrology. Look, it's astrologyonline.eu is the website, and you can calculate your solar return chart on it. I believe it asks you to type in your own birth data, for your your natal period and your in the parameters. Then it asks you to type in, your current, location, because I believe the solar return chart is done based on where you are located at this present time. I was born in New York on July 1st, 1970, but right now I'm in Nashville, Tennessee. So obviously when I do my solar return chart, I'm going to put in my current location that I'm in. Well, anyway, people, that will conclude this YouTube astrological segment for solar return charts. Stay tuned when I will be continuing my series on house rulers in the natal horoscope. Two things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel, but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis on a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone. Because a person astrologically is the sum of all their components in their natal chart, and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.